So here we are. Our topic for today is 10 guaranteed ways to look unprofessional. I have been waiting since October to teach this topic because I just think it's super fun. I think it's a really fun topic. I think we're going to learn a lot through it too. It was so much fun putting it all together and thinking through all the different scenarios that I personally have been in or that I've, talked to other people about or seen online. Or some of the examples I give are kind of a conglomeration of, a bunch of different stories I've heard or things I've seen. So these are all really easy pitfalls for us to fall into. But by talking about them in advance, then we can prepare ourselves, figure out how we would handle that situation, and come off looking like a pro. No matter what the scenario is, no matter what the situation is, we can come off looking super slick, super professional, in charge, prepared, organized. So we are going to dive straight into this. If you have been with us so far, we started the 1st of November with this weekly webinar series. We did take off Christmas. We took off 1 week. But other than that, we've been going every week since November 1st. We started by looking at ourselves, our own health, our own mental health, physical health, stress, nutrition. How do we take care of ourselves? Especially coming out of this really difficult year that we all just came out of. And then in December, we focused on how do we teach those same skills to our clients and to our students? How do we help them cope with 2020? How do we help them be mentally healthy, physically healthy? How do we teach that in a really engaging way and teach them healthy habits that they can incorporate one at a time so they can make sustainable changes in pregnancy, but that can be lifelong, life-changing. It's really cool. So if you missed any of those topics, you can go back to our website, carolinabirthtrainings.com, or you can go to my website, naturalabundance.me, to see the ones that I've taught. And you can go to carolinabirthtrainings.com to see both mine and the other Laura's, Laura and Nance. We've been taking turns on these topics. Now that we are in the new year and everybody's starting to plan the new year and plan 2021 and looking forward, we're shifting into more business-specific topics. So now that we have made sure that we have good, healthy habits and we're taking care of ourselves, we hopefully have something then to turn around and pour out into our students and our clients. So this month, we're going to be looking at making a business plan. We're going to be looking at taxes. Fun, right? How do we do taxes as a birth professional? Laura Nance has a ton of experience in that area. She worked in a tax office for a while and then has done her own for many, many years. And then she's also going to talk to you about how to interview well, whether that's as a doula, interviewing with potential clients. I'm sure it would even roll over into as a teacher if I want to go teach somewhere else and I'm having to meet with people, and how do I represent myself well and with confidence. So don't miss those. And then in February, we're going to talk about doing each of these individual jobs in a virtual setting and what are some tips and tricks and techniques for making that happen. And there's much, much more to come, lots of exciting things. So this is kind of making that transition from taking care of ourselves to taking care of our business, right? And we're going to kick that off with this just super fun, light, easy topic, 10 guaranteed ways to look unprofessional. So I don't have any handouts or anything for this one. So if you are on Zoom right now with me, or if you are on Facebook and you can see the slides, feel free to screenshot any of these or, take notes or whatever. If you are on Instagram, you might have to go over there to check it out and see what these slides look like. They're fun. They're very colorful. So let's dive right in. And these are not in any particular order at all, just kind of how they came to me as I was thinking through these topics. But the first one is the easiest one. It's the easiest one, the easiest mistake to make, but it's also the easiest one to correct. It's so simple. Number one way to make sure you look really unprofessional is to not respond to people, to not respond to potential clients when they reach out to you, to not respond to other professionals when they reach out to you, to those voicemails, to those emails. If you're not writing back, you don't look like you're on top of things. And also, people don't even know if you're still actively working. I had a number of people I tried to contact when I moved to my new town and just never heard anything back. I still to this day don't know if some of them are actively working, if they even still live here. I don't have any idea. So easiest one to fix, make sure you're responding to your emails, your voicemails, your texts, business text emails within 24 to 48 hours. That's kind of the accepted span of time for business response, any kind of business. If you've ever worked in an office or anything like that, 24 to 48 hours is an acceptable amount of time for someone to expect to hear back from you. You don't have to count weekends. So it's like business days, right? You want to try and respond by the next business day or so. So if somebody emails you at 7:30 on Friday night, it's okay to wait until Monday morning to write them back. But in general, and I can't even tell you as a doula how many times I got hired by a client because they said to me, I emailed 5 doulas and asked about doing an interview with them, and you're the only person who wrote me back. Isn't that crazy? What a simple thing to do. Just reply, respond. Yes, I'd love to talk to you. Here's my number, anything. Just so they know you're alive, you're active, you're working, you're available. It makes a huge difference. Number 2 is in the same vein, not responding with complete sentences or not answering all of the questions that they ask. So we've already established mistake number 1. We're not going to make that, right? We're going to respond within 24 to 48 hours, basically, hopefully within the next business day or so. But when you respond, we want to make sure that we have a good, complete answer and that we're using complete sentences. We have to go back to school when you had to write whole paragraphs and not use text language. And if this is how you converse all day, every day, it takes a little extra effort to go back and rethink. It doesn't sound super professional. It's different than writing to a friend or to a family member. It's different. So when someone writes you, even if it's a text, I still try and respond in a full sentence with a period in a text, which is sometimes kind of awkward and weird. I don't get a ton of texts. Like the first contact from a client usually isn't a text, but every once in a while I will. And I will still put on my professional mindset, put on my professional hat, and I'll respond with complete sentences. But the trickier part of this number 2, easy mistake to make, is not answering all the questions that someone asks. And the reason this doesn't look professional is, let me give you an example. If someone sends me an email and they say, I have a question about your services. I want to know what it includes, how much it costs, and if you're available in March. Okay. And then I write back, yes, I'm available in March. I'd love to talk to you. That was a complete sentence, I think. But I didn't answer 2 of their questions. And so now, first of all, it doesn't look like I'm really listening or paying attention. Doesn't really look like maybe I cared enough to read every word of it. But also, I'm putting them in the awkward position of making the choice to either write back and ask those same questions again, and then they feel like they're pestering me, so they might not do it, and then they're just going to go on to the next person. Or they might say, okay, let's schedule an interview, but they still haven't had their question answered. I could go all the way to the interview, spend the time there, and then realize I'm not even available in March, right? So we're not getting all of that information that we need initially, and we're putting them in a really awkward position. And so it just doesn't look very professional, right? So making sure that we answer every question they ask. I even like to use different paragraphs or bullet points because I'm a bit of a nerd like that. But it makes it really easy for them to pull it up and go, wow, I asked 3 questions and here's answer 1, answer 2, answer 3. And then it's not confusing. We're eliminating confusion, which is a big key in being a professional, is we're making it very clear to them what we're trying to say. Number 3, we're just whipping right through these. So number 3, I put this in because it's a huge pet peeve of mine. If you can see the slide, it says asking clients to pay you, friends and family. I think I probably just stepped on some toes, and I'm really sorry. But this is one of those things that just, it does not look professional. There's a number of different ways to handle this that are very professional. But when you have a business and you're running a business and you're using something like PayPal, which is what the friends and family is on, right? You're trying, when you say pay me friends and family, you're trying to avoid business fees while running a business. And that looks super sketchy. I was gonna say it looks a little sus, but my teenagers are watching this and I can hear them like dying on the inside from their rooms. So it looks super sketchy. It just looks like you're trying to get away with something. Even if you're not, that's how it comes across. It comes across as I run my own business, but I'm trying to go under the table and not have to pay my business fees. And that's not cool. So there's a lot of different ways around that. One of them would be just not to use PayPal. One of them would be to charge a few dollars more so that you have your fees covered. If it's really important to you that you get that exact dollar amount for that service, raise it $5, raise it $10, whatever that percentage would be. It's usually around 3 to 3.5% is what PayPal takes. Or you may decide this is one of those business expenses and I'm going to factor it into my overall pricing structure so that I can afford those business fees because of the benefit that I get from that online service. Does that make sense? Feel free to email me some hate mail about that one. I know some of you really like your friends and family, but the fact is they're not your friends and family. They're your clients. And if we're going to have a business, we have to treat it like a business and act like a professional business owner. I'm going to move on before I get in trouble. Number 4, bad mouthing other professionals. This one seems so obvious to say it. Of course, we're not going to go around bad mouthing people. We're not going to go around slandering other people in our field. But when you have a really bad experience with a colleague or with another professional in a related field, and then that person's name comes up, it's hard. It can be really hard to not just rail on that story, rail on that thing that that person said. This requires a lot of self-control and a bit of emotional maturity, but it's so important because as soon as you start saying something negative about another professional, the other professionals listening to you are now going to be really wary about working with you because they don't know what you're going to say about them when they're not there. So gossiping would fall into the same category. If we're just, saying negative stuff or spreading stories or things like this, it just looks really, really unprofessional. And it makes other professionals not trust you, which in this business, word of mouth and trust are huge, super big for growing our businesses and growing in our field. So watch that one. That should be a pretty kind of a no-brainer, but it's one of those we want to go ahead and think about why it's so important before we get into a situation where it's easy to jump in and just start, oh, I have a bad story to share, self-control. Number 5, making sure I'm not forgetting to tell you anything. Okay, so number 5, showing up late, missing meetings, and making excuses. This kind of all fits in the same category. Of course, this does not look professional. Now, I'm not talking like one legitimate, my car broke down or, something that really is out of your control, but you did everything that you could to get there to this prenatal meeting or to this, postpartum appointment or whatever it is. Obviously, if we do everything that we can, we put forth our best effort and something just doesn't work out, that's fine. But if it happens again at the next meeting and the next meeting, or if there really is no good reason, if it was just I was unorganized or I double booked or I overslept or I forgot, that's starting to look super, super unprofessional. And again, you're losing credibility, you're losing trust in your client's eyes or in your students' eyes. They don't know. If you are not showing up for our meetings, are you going to show up at my birth? If you are 15 minutes late to a class that you're teaching, how trustworthy is the rest of the information that you're teaching me? You see? So being late, missing meetings, and making excuses repeatedly, I would say. Now, with one client, you only have a handful of meetings. So it may only be one time, but if it starts being one time with each client, or if you're working with another birth professional and they're seeing you kind of fall into this habit and this lack of organization, it's going to make other people not want to work with you because they don't know if you're reliable or not. So with our clients and our students, absolutely, let's be organized on time, do our very, very best to be there, have all the stuff we need, all that kind of stuff. but also with other professionals that we're working with. We want to make sure if we say we're going to do something, we do it. And if we say we're going to be somewhere, we're there. I think I've only made this mistake one time, and I still feel horrible about it that I missed a meeting. I just forgot, totally forgot. And I still feel bad about it to this day, which I think has helped me never do it again, because I know she didn't say it, but I know in her eyes, I lost so much credibility. A fellow doula that I work with and still love, we're still friends, it's fine. But you don't ever want to make that mistake more than once. If we could not even make it once, that would be great, because we want people to know they can rely on us. We'll be there when we say we're going to be there. That is what a professional does. So organization is key in this business, making sure we have good notes, good calendar, good reminders. I have like 50 reminders on my phone a day so that I don't forget any of my appointments or meetings or phone calls or classes or anything like that. So that is number 5. Number 6, also along the lines of organization, not having a backup plan looks very unprofessional. Now, I'll be honest, you can probably get away with this one a number of times, but then there's going to be that one time that you can't, and that can kind of blow it. So you could take a gamble on this and not have a backup plan for your client, not have a backup doula, not have a backup, a rain date for a class, not, and maybe you'll get away with it. But the one time that you're going to need it, you're going to lose a lot of credibility if you don't have it. So if you are going to be a professional in this field, you always need to have a backup plan, which for a labor doula means you always need to have a backup doula, always. Not only because we don't want to leave our client high and dry and without support, or we don't want to, at the end of a class series, be scrambling because we had to cancel one because I got the flu or something. And then we have to make up this class, and now we're desperately trying to find a date that everybody in the class can come to. But also because if you're in the birth community online or in person and you're just putting out a big call, I need somebody to teach this class for me at the last minute, or I need somebody to go be with my client, they're going to the hospital and I'm out of town, or whatever, and you're basically announcing to the whole community that you're unprepared and that you were not responsible to your client or your students to have a backup plan for them. Again, somebody probably will jump in and help out, because we all love to help and we care a lot about clients and families and students, and but everybody else who's watching that conversation happen is going to be really, really wary to work with you in the future, because again, we're not showing that we are reliable, trustworthy, prepared, organized, responsible. Those are all the things that we want to be portraying as professionals. So that would be our pitfall number 6. I've been trying to think of the word pitfall this entire time. That would be our pitfall number 6, not having a backup doula if you're a labor doula, or not having a backup plan for appointments or classes or things like this. Especially for labor doulas, though, that's a huge one. And then number 7, and this is a teaching one, but it goes for whether you're teaching a class or you're just talking one-on-one with your clients. Number 7 is teaching from your personal experience instead of from science, instead of from evidence. Not being evidence-based does not look very professional. Sometimes it feels engaging for the clients to be like, oh, you've been in the same situation, but you're only sharing one experience as you're teaching, as your main teaching method. And that doesn't really help them. First of all, it's not really helpful just to teach from your own personal experience, because it's just one person's experience and their birth is going to be completely different from yours, right? Even if you have 10 babies, all of your 10 are going to be completely different from each other. So not only is it not going to be super helpful, but it just doesn't look very professional. It looks like either you don't know what the evidence says about this topic, or you haven't taken the time to find out. You haven't taken the time to do the research and to see what science has said about this. So that's one that takes a little more work to do that research, to find out what the evidence says about the different topics that you're talking about in your doula meetings or in your classes that you're teaching. But it's incredibly important. And in fact, I have a book I was just reading yesterday. It's back there. I have a book I was just reading yesterday by an author and a professional who I love, and I highly respect her as a professional. And then I bought this book and I started reading through her book, and almost every single topic that she's talking about, she says, here was my experience with this. And in my third birth, this happened. And I used this method and it was effective for me. And I tried out this particular supplement with this pregnancy issue I was having, and it worked great. And that's the evidence that she's giving for techniques to use in labor, for methods of treating pregnancy ailments. And I put the book away, and I'm a little concerned now. Like, I feel like I need to go do a little more research into some of her other resources and see if they're all like that, or if maybe this was just kind of a one-off. I don't know. And the ones that she did quote as being evidence-based, I think I need to go find a secondary source and make sure. In fact, I did. I pulled a bunch more books off my shelf and double checked everything she said, because it just doesn't look very professional. It doesn't look very trustworthy and reliable when we're using our personal experience as evidence. Does that make sense? Feel free to message me or comment down here if any of these are confusing, but this is a big one. So teaching from your personal experience instead of from science is a guaranteed way to look unprofessional when you're trying to be in your professional role. Number 8 is being crass or inappropriate. And this is the trickiest one because that means different things to different people. So I put this one on here and I changed the wording a bunch of times because I was trying to make sure I was getting my point across. This could include things like profanities in your class or in your teaching. That is definitely going to throw some people and make them kind of second guess where you're coming from. It just doesn't look very professional. It could be using kind of overly gross explanations or examples. Shocking things just for shock value is not professional. It could be using overly personal examples. So we talked about, not teaching from your personal experience, but a lot of teachers do share a thing or two here or there about themselves. But something that might be like overly personal does not look very professional. This also includes social media, I would say, for sure. Sharing, oversharing on social media, or sharing like crazy party photos on a social media where there are other birth professionals who follow you, or you have clients who follow you. I know more than one birth professional who was kind of, I don't know that 100% tanked their career, but it definitely worked for the downhill slide, who were just constantly posting pictures and stories of themselves being really irresponsible in their personal life, but it's being viewed by all the professionals that they work with. And I've seen careers die because of this. So it seems kind of almost like a silly one, especially in this world where we just share everything, but it can absolutely tank a career. So this is a really important one. We're trying to look responsible, right, and trustworthy in our professional life. So we either have to have a totally secret account on social media where none of the professionals we're working with see it, or our personal account needs to at least somewhat mirror what our professional life is so that we look like a consistent human being. Otherwise, if we have a client who's looking at us being really super irresponsible in our personal life, how do they know whether which Laura is going to show up? Is it going to be the totally irresponsible one? Or is it going to be the professional version? And that's very concerning for a lot of clients, and that's going to lose you clients for sure. And that's a pretty easy one, right? This is a pretty easy one. We just have to think before we hit post. So I might get some hate mail on that one too, but I'm telling you, 12 years in this business, I have seen careers severely damaged by this. So please take this one seriously. And then number 9, we're almost to the end already. What are we, like half an hour in? We're whipping through these. Number 9 is a lack of clear directions when you are talking to your clients or students. This could also, I almost wrote lack of decisiveness. It could kind of include both of those. But what it boils down to is your clients and students want to know exactly what's expected of them and exactly what they can expect of you. No confusion. We want to cut out any confusion. Just like when we're emailing, we want to make sure we answer all their questions that they ask so there's no confusion. Same thing with directions. So this could be in payment, right? If you go to a business and you're purchasing something from them, you want to know exactly upfront how much it costs, how much to pay, at what point you pay, when you're going to get it, what format you're going to get it in, right? Our clients want the same thing from us. They expect us to be a professional business. And so for those of us who are new to that, if you're new to charging people, setting prices, asking them to pay you, it might feel really awkward at first. But if we're awkward about it, they're going to be 100 times more awkward, and it's not going to feel good. It's not going to have a good, trustworthy foundation to our professional relationship. So we need to put on our big girl pants, big boy pants, whoever's on this call, right? And we need to say, here's what you owe, here's when you're going to owe it, here's how you're going to pay it, and then we're going to schedule your appointment or your meeting or your class or whatever order it's in. You need to have thought that through in advance so that you can very clearly explain it to them. The lack of decisiveness, I think, would come in. Something that I've heard a few times is, meeting with a client. Well, do you want to pay me now, or do you want to pay me when we come into our first meeting, or what do you think would be the best? Okay, you're not asking them how to run your business. They don't know. They don't know how to run your business. You need to decide how you want to run it and when you want deadlines to be and how much you want that cost to be and when you want them to pay you and how. So that payment, I think, is the easiest area in which to see that. But really, anytime we're talking to our clients or students about, setting a meeting, how long that meeting is going to be, what supplies they need, or what you're going to bring, or when to call you when they're in labor, or when to call you, postpartum when they need extra help, or when they want you to come, or any of these things, making sure that we are very clear, both in speaking and in writing, and sometimes following up in writing what we've been speaking about. Oftentimes, if I have a phone call with somebody and they ask me a whole bunch of questions, I will be mentally making a note of what we talked about, and I'll send them a follow-up email as we talked about on the phone, and kind of make a short list, give them a couple of links if they need them, or whatever, just so that it's very, very clear. They know exactly what those answers are, what to expect of me, what I expect of them, and they have the information on hand they can refer back to. So again, this takes preparation. This takes thinking through things in advance. And that doesn't mean you can't change it. Like with the pay schedule, figure it all out, be very clear in your directions. And then if it doesn't work, change it. With the next client, change it up in advance, figure out how you want to try it this time, run it that way, see if that's more smooth, and kind of keep tweaking it as you go along. But with each individual student or each individual client, you want to make sure that the path is very clear for them. They know exactly what to do. And that makes you look more organized, more on top of things, and definitely more professional. So very clear directions on payments, on schedules, on topics that you're covering in your meetings. You want to come with an outline of things to talk about. Come prepared to your interview, come prepared to your prenatal meetings, come prepared to your postpartum appointments. Know what you want to talk about, or what you want to work on, or what questions you want to ask of them, and be prepared and be ready. And that just helps avoid awkwardness. It helps avoid discomfort on the client's part as well. And then number 10 is an interesting one. It's a little bit different than the ones we've been talking about. but it's something that I do see quite a lot. And the slide says scattered marketing. So our number 10 pitfall, easy way to look really unprofessional, is this kind of scattered marketing where we, as a professional, maybe I do a bunch of different things, and I'm trying to advertise them all together all at the same time. So I picked up a business card the other day. I was trying to find a violin teacher for my daughter. And I picked up her business card, and it had a picture of violin teacher, and then it said, I also clean houses and I sell supplements. Okay, none of those are related in any way, but she's trying to market them all together at the same time to the same person. Like, okay, if you don't want violin, maybe you want me to clean your house, or maybe you want to buy some of my supplements, or, whatever. It could be anything. It could be, I'm a doula, I also teach piano lessons, and I sell leggings, whatever. They're not related. There's no focus. And one person doesn't need to be marketed all those things. And instead, what it ends up coming across looking like is I do these 3 things, but I don't do any of them very well. Right? That's what it looks like. It looks like I have 3 separate businesses, but not, one of them individually is not very successful on its own, which is why I have to do all the other ones. That does not look good. So instead, if you do various things, see if you can find kind of an umbrella term to put them under. I have a friend and former trainee in the Charlotte area who does multiple areas of birth. And then she also does birth art. She does art, but it's related to birth. Okay, so art could be something totally different. And we had this conversation when she started, do I need a whole separate website for that? If it was totally unrelated, I would say yes, absolutely. But because we can bring it all in under this birth umbrella, go ahead and market all that together. That's fantastic. But if it's something completely unrelated, we need 2 different avenues of marketing because we have 2 totally different audiences. So it's just something to keep in mind. You want to make sure you look like I'm professional, organized, and I do what I do very well. And saying, oh, but if you're not interested in that, you could buy this, or you could do this, or you could hire me for this. Looks very scattered, kind of disorganized, and like my primary job I'm doing really isn't paying the bills. So I got to have a bunch of side gigs, which doesn't come across looking very good. So that's what scattered marketing means. I hope that makes sense. But if there's a way to bring it all under one umbrella, if you could bring it all into birth or women's health or health in general, or, if there's some kind of larger category that you can fit all those things under, that's fantastic. And then you can market it that way so that it looks more conjoined. I support families, and here's the way I support them. Maybe that would do it. But that'll help. That'll definitely give it a more professional kind of tone as you're marketing. So I actually have 11. I put in an extra one for you guys. And I put this last one in. It's kind of a next level. So let's say we've gotten through all these 10. We are rocking at all these. We're having no issues. We look like an absolute pro. And then number 10 or number 11, I guess it's our bonus. Way to not look professional is to not listen, to not truly listen to what your clients and students are saying. And this one definitely takes a lot more work. It may take more prep work. It may take more, working on some active listening techniques. But it's really, really important because we've talked about being organized and prepared, right? We've talked about coming to your classes or your meetings with your list, with your outline, with, being really prepared. But what often happens after that, what I see happen is we have our list and we're just going to barrel through it. And so our client might share something with us we're concerned about, and we give them a quick little answer, and then we jump back to our outline. We leave, and they're sitting there going, she never really addressed my concern. Like, they never really talked about this one thing that was what I really wanted to know. And they don't feel listened to, and they don't feel like, as a professional, you're giving them the information that they're wanting. You gave them lots of information, but not the thing that was most important to them. And this definitely takes more awareness and more effort, because it's easy, especially those of us who are teachers, it's easy to get into lecture mode and to go through your list and sort of download the information to them, which is fine. There's definitely a good quality to that, but it has to be balanced and make sure that we are hearing what our clients are saying to us, in order to really look like an engaging, caring professional, not just organized, but caring as well. So we want to have an agenda when we go into our meetings, when we go into our classes, but we need to be willing to deviate from that according to the client's needs and according to what their questions are, what their concerns are. And we need to practice, if this is something that you're not naturally good at or you haven't done in another field or in other areas of life, work on active listening, get some resources, read about that, learn more about it, how to ask good follow-up questions, how to mirror back their language, mirror back the concepts they're sharing with you and the terms that they're using, so that our clients feel valued, they feel heard, they feel cared about. And ultimately, that is going to help them open up more to us and feel like they can really be themselves and really relax when they're around us, which is going to be key to especially a doula relationship. When you're working that intimately with your clients, if they don't feel like they can express their concerns and you will listen to them in an accepting way and help them within your scope, then they're not really going to be able to relax, and they're not really going to be, and even in a teaching setting, if they're not relaxed, then they're not engaging with the information that you're teaching them either. So this is kind of next level. This is, once you get those first 10, we're responding to emails, we've got a backup plan, we've got all those things. I would suggest the next thing that you work on is this active listening, counseling, modeling type of listening. It's a really important key to being a good, quality, caring professional. And then my last slide. Oh, I didn't start the thing. So if you can see the slide, another reason I really wanted a bonus one was for this pretty picture. Isn't that beautiful? Wait for it. I love it. And I forgot to start it. You could have been watching it this whole time. I think it's just beautiful. So listening. Is it going to do it again? No. So if you can't see the slides, you'll have to go check that one out, because I love this little lady right here. I'm going to do it again. Here we go. Truly listening. Isn't that pretty? All the people on Instagram were like, what? The slides are on Facebook. If you go to our Facebook, Carolina Doula Trainings is what we're called on Facebook. Carolina Birth Trainings. We kind of go back and forth. Or you can go to our website, carolinabirthtrainings.com, and you can download this recording. I'll get it loaded tonight if you want to see the slides that go with this. All right, so the last one, flipped it around. How to be professional then. How do we summarize this? And these are words you've heard me say through the whole thing. So 3 things to keep in mind if we want to be professional, if we want to appear professional within our community of other professionals and with our clients. Number 1 is that confidence. Being confident, that's going to help us give clear directions, give clear guidance, communicate well. Sometimes you have to fake this early on. You may have to strike your power pose for 2 minutes until you build your confidence. But being confident in the information that you're giving, being confident in your ability is going to help your clients trust you and put their confidence in you. And it's going to help other professionals feel more confident working with you as well. And then number 2 is that organization key. So being organized, being prepared, spending that time in advance so that you can present your information well and confidently. But you do have to make that leap. I know some people kind of get stuck in that organization part. And they're like, I've been working on my classes and all my promotional materials for a year, and I just don't know how to get started. You got to take that leap at some point and get out there and just start doing it. And then number 3 is sort of the summary of being kind and polite and compassionate and not bad-mouthing other professionals and caring and listening. We can sum that up as building bridges. So that's a little picture of a bridge here on my slide. So we want to be building bridges between ourselves and our clients, building that trust, building that rapport. We want to be building bridges between us and other professionals, and showing them respect, showing that we care about what the other professions are that are in our field and how they contribute, opening those conversations, maintaining those relationships. So all those other ones, that's how I would kind of sum that up. We want to be bridge builders, confident, organized, building bridges, building community. This is how we are going to maintain that professional standing within our community. And it's really important in this job because we're not licensed through the state. We're not medically licensed. There's no board certification, but we're working with a lot of professionals who are, who do have all those standards, and who have gone through all that and who hold these professional standards for themselves. They're going to hold those for us as well if we want to be considered colleagues in this field. So a lot of this, like the point of this was, how do we look professional to our clients? We don't want to lose clients because we're making a silly mistake, right? So that's sort of the premise of this talk. But there's this other level that when we present ourselves as professionals in our field, other professionals will take note of that as well. So we have tons of benefit from this. But these are pitfalls that are easy to fall into. So by being aware of them and thinking through them and talking about them, hopefully we can avoid that. And we won't lose any clients over silly mistakes. And if you do make one of these mistakes, or you have in the past, don't worry. It's a learning experience. We are going to learn from that. And now we know what not to do next time. And we are going to make a step forward, and we're going to grow our business, and we're going to impact our birthing community. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. We have a ton more webinars coming up. Like I said, in January, the next 3 Mondays, we have business topics, taxes, interviews, and making a plan, making your business plan for 2021. And then in February, we have topics on virtual services, virtual labor doula, virtual postpartum, teaching online childbirth classes. If you haven't quite ventured into that, or if you've done it but you don't feel comfortable and confident doing it, and we'll share activities you can do and things like that. So lots of fun stuff. And then even more in March, I have a how to make your webinar, how to make your website webinar coming up soon too. So if you don't have your website running yet, I taught one last year. You can go ahead and buy the recording of it off my website, naturalabundance.me. But I'm going to do a new one this spring on Weebly. The other one's on WordPress. So lots of great options, great stuff coming up. Stay tuned. Check out our website, our Facebook page, and keep up with us that way. And that way you won't miss any of these great topics. So shoot me an email or comment on one of these posts if you have questions or concerns or topics you would like for us to teach on in the future. We're happy to do that as well. And I'm going to shut down the live streams now. And then we'll do Q&A on Zoom. So let me shut down Instagram. Bye, Instagram people. Thanks for joining me. And then I'm going to shut down Facebook.